Good afternoon. It's December 12th. It is 1:30, and we're in our work session. We're very fortunate to have the representatives from the West Virginia State Tax Department. And if you could, please just state your name so that way we can.
For the record.
For the record.
Okay. I am Matthew Irby.
Matt?
Cindy Dunbar.
Barbara Stewart.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming up. We really do appreciate you coming up here. So we'll turn it over to you first. Roughly to give you an idea, we have a 90-minute block period. So we thought, what we could do in the public session, that we could ask some general questions and presentation. And then when we need to get into the specifics, we will move into executive session and do that privately. Okay? So that gives you an idea.
Absolutely.
So Matt, I'll turn it over to you. And
All right, sure. So my name is Matthew Irby, like I mentioned. I am the director of the Tax Account Administration Division for the West Virginia State Tax Department. Our division handles most administration of most taxes in West Virginia. So it includes personal income tax, corporate income tax, sales taxes, fuel taxes, everything. And contained within a lot of those provisions are local taxes, local sales taxes, and in this particular instance, local wine liquor taxes, but also other taxes have various distribution requirements. Some of them go to various special funds, some go to localities like coal severance taxes, portions of it go to producing counties, portions of it go to non-producing counties, things like that. So one of our other responsibilities is calculating up those distributions. I took over this division in 2014, and since that time we've undergone a significant shift in the way in which we approach a lot of these distributions. And so a large portion of my presentation is to talk about a little bit of where did we come from and where are we going kind of thing with how we handle the administration of items like this. So one of my assistant directors is with me. She is the assistant director of my administration section, which kind of handles pretty much every random thing that we need to have done. And so contained within that is a group of accountants that we started to employ a couple of years ago to handle our distributions. They were previously handled simply by the tax audit clerks that worked those returns prior to that. And one of the things I noticed was, hey, we need to have professional accountants that are a part of this in order to ensure that we're doing the best job that we can do with our distributions. So we hired Barbara. She's our accounting supervisor, so she's going to be the one when we go into executive session and you all want to know more specifics about the numbers than the more general information we're going to provide. She'll probably have a little bit more of the detailed data with regard to that. So jumping into that.
You guys can't see this.
yeah, is there a way you can turn it so we can see?
Just halfway. So
Yeah, halfway.
Okay.
That's great. Okay.
There we go. So a summary of what I want to go over is first, tax department historically placed significant value on responsibility on taxpayers to report information accurately. It's kind of a given in tax administration that you want taxpayers reporting accurately, and you kind of operate from the assumption that they are until you know that they aren't. One other big point that we want to go over is size of jurisdictions really impact sort of distributional problems. And we'll kind of go into more detail on why that is. Third major point, we've taken significant steps to try to catch aberrations earlier so that the major financial impact is not so significant. And we try to place in this particular tax less reliance on taxpayer reporting because it has become very clear that it is just incredibly bad. And finally, in the open session, we would talk about our new process smoothing transition into the jurisdictional requirements from Senate Bill 275. Good. And then we'll hit confidential tax information. We'll have to go into executive session. So first, where did we come from? As I said, we've historically depended on taxpayer reporting jurisdictional data accurately. And so the tax return was simply designed to say, here's how much we sold in wine or liquor or in sales to private clubs, and here's the jurisdictions that we sold them to. And so they would provide a listing of jurisdictions, so they would say Mon County, or they would say Morgantown, or they'd say any other number of counties or cities that they delivered to or that they sold in, and we would take that at face value and we would distribute the money to those localities according to the taxpayer reporting. Now, there are obviously problems with this approach. One of them is that the jurisdictional boundaries are confusing. It's hard for many people. It's hard for us, even though we've specifically asked for the municipal sales tax cities to provide us with a map to figure out whether a business is within a city or outside a city anyways. And then when you throw on an additional 1 mile from that to try to figure out if a business is within 1 mile of a jurisdictional boundary that some people don't even agree on the jurisdictional boundary, makes it exceedingly difficult. I know that I've engaged with one city just as an interesting example where they complained feeling that a taxpayer was within 1 mile of their municipality. And when we looked at their map of the municipality and we ran the most convenient public road to their front door, I got 0.99 miles. Which means I've got to go actually measure this thing from the actual jurisdictional boundary to find out if it's within a mile. Because it's
January 1, you won't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, on January 1, we won't have to do that anymore, but it's just crazy to try to figure that out. And so taxpayers don't really know where they are with regard to jurisdictional boundaries because of the 1 mile rule. And then I kind of take that a little bit further. Taxpayers don't even really care where they are, and that's kind of goes to that final point. The tax rate's the same to them either way.
Right.
So they honestly don't care. They don't pay any penalty if they report the wrong jurisdiction because we just changed the jurisdiction. Since all penalties are associated to amount of tax paid versus tax due, there's no penalty for reporting the wrong jurisdiction. So taxpayers just do a notoriously bad job because they're just trying to get it filed and trying to get it paid. And so it doesn't really, we haven't gotten great accurate reporting from them. So the net effect of that approach was we got inaccurate reporting by taxpayers, and it impacts every district across the state. For the wine and liquor tax, we've got over 200 taxing districts. Some of them are large areas with very few taxpayers. Some of them are very small areas with a whole lot of taxpayers. Some of them have regularly shifting borders. There are some of our municipalities that just regularly take over additional property, and they don't do a very good job informing taxpayers that they've shifted their border. Road closures, because the rule was previously by most convenient, like hard-packed road or something like that. Road closures or road additions can actually impact the tax liability, and there's no way that a taxpayer is going to be prepared for that. So as districts become, another major point to think about, as districts become smaller or have fewer taxpayers, those mistakes by taxpayers become more and more magnified. So we even see that if you ever follow state revenue reports, you'll see a down month followed by an up month. And a lot of that is generally related to timing of a tax payment. Very large taxpayers drive revenue. And so if a very large taxpayer makes a very large mistake to a very small jurisdiction that has very few taxpayers, it absolutely destroys the revenue calculations for those local jurisdictions. So our two major state taxes are personal income tax, where we have over 850,000 taxpayers, and our sales tax, where we have over 120,000 different taxpayers, and we still see those shifts in revenue monthly because a large tax payment came in on the 30th but didn't process until the 1st or something like that. So a single taxpayer can have a significant impact on local jurisdictions when they make mistakes.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, and again, that's why we wanted to talk to you, is to understand your processes, because I wasn't sure what the process was, and with the new change in the law, how people are going to be basically like recertified as to where their location is. So I'm thinking of a business that's in a particular location and generally isn't going to change unless the boundaries change. But if you have like a distributor in a county, where do the taxes get apportioned to? Like if they sell to a bar over in this city, and a bar over this city, it goes to that city, correct? So the
Yes.
distributor themselves have a lot more complex
Yes, they do.
report?
Yes,
Okay,
they
I
do.
just want to make sure I understood that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll kind of get into it here. So what did we do to solve some of these problems? Well, the first thing is we saw some very large errors, and we started noticing even more because we were taking a closer look at it. Large errors around 2012, 2013 started becoming more and more apparent. More jurisdictions were, I think, probably because of tightening budgets.
Is that statewide?
Statewide,
Okay.
we were noticing this. Probably because of tightening budgets around that time, everybody was very acutely aware of any shifting revenues or any problems, or they just wanted to make sure they were getting all the money that they were entitled to. And because taking a closer look at it, we started seeing major errors, we decided to do a one-time analysis. And this isn't an excuse. I will not make an excuse for the department, but I will say, I started in this position in 2014, so I don't know everything that went into the decision-making on the analysis that was done in 2012, 2013. So I can't really speak necessarily to that. I've got a little bit of documentation that kind of tells me a little bit, but I wasn't a part of that decision-making process, so I can't really speak to why those decisions
Could you
were
tell us
made.
the documentation at least that you have?
Yeah, we've got some agreements with some localities with regard to shifting revenues that gives us a sort of an indication as to what the department was thinking. And essentially, primarily, it all drives towards, if you ask the question, then we're going to try to fix it. But if you don't ask the question, we're not going to look for problems,
Okay.
and we're going to do a going forward approach.
Don't ask, don't tell, similar to the.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that the
okay, I mean,
concern was.
okay, I understand, yeah.
Yeah, I think the concern was it's a multi-million-dollar problem.
Yes.
And one where you'd have small municipality feeling a significant impact on their budget to shift money to maybe a large municipality or a county with sufficient revenue or something like that. So we did a one-time analysis and we tried to fix taxpayers going forward. So we looked at large taxpayers primarily, and we said, if it looks like you're not reporting all the jurisdictions appropriately, we're going to contact you, we're going to tell you the jurisdictions we think you're supposed to be reporting, and we're going to expect you to start reporting those jurisdictions. We also did a few limited scope audits to try to gauge compliance with the rules. We adopted legislation that shrunk the period for doing distributional adjustments to a 3-year look-back period. And then I conceived, when I started in 2014, the distributions unit to try to fix these things going forward. So what did we do next? We monitored whether or not taxpayer compliance was improving under the conditions of telling taxpayers the jurisdictions they ought to be reporting to, and we determined that they were not improving. They were still making the same mistakes repeatedly, and so we conceived a new tax return. So the tax return changed as of July 1, 2017, I believe. That tax return, instead of reporting jurisdictions, if you are a place that makes sales from a physical location, you give us the business registration certificate number for that physical location, and then we'll have the address of the place that you made the sales from.
Okay, just a clarification. One of the concerns we have is, let's say, for example, they give you an address that says 26501. Where we are having problems in the county is, that's Westover, that's Granville, that's the city of Morgantown.
Yep.
So were you able to distinguish between all those?
Yes, so what we did was
Okay.
we pulled those, we looked at the actual physical location, we looked at the best maps we had available, which we use multiple map sources, but we do not have every map of every city from the cities themselves. But we use the E911 system maps, we use maps that we have from our property tax division, we use maps from the census, and we use maps from Google to try to determine the jurisdictional boundaries of cities. And if we have it, we use the map provided by the city. And we use those in conjunction with the physical locations that we receive on the business registration certificates of them to determine their jurisdiction. They had to report their sales by each one of those business registration certificates, so that they couldn't. One issue that we saw occurring frequently was sort of I've got 3 locations that are kind of in a general area close to, let's just say, Morgantown.
Right.
So I'll just report them all to Morgantown.
A
Whereas,
perfect example of sheets, we've got, what, 7 sheets in there?
Yes.
yeah, and so you'll see, places like that will have consolidated reporting, and they'll just kind of try to get it close to right. And so what we said was, well, we actually are going to need store-level data.
So you were able
on
to,
this.
you had to break them, so you had them now breaking it down?
Yeah,
Okay.
they break it down by store now.
Okay, that makes sense.
For wine distributors and direct sellers, going to your question, we developed a new schedule where they now have to provide us every single location they make deliveries to. So if they make a delivery to a restaurant in Morgantown, they've got to provide us the address and how much they sold to that particular place. They don't have to tell us who they sold it to, but they've got to give us the physical location of it, and we make the determination based on that. However, we do not engage in the same deep analysis that we engaged in for each physical location of sellers, because the sales are so much less that the dollar trade-off is significant. It could be, we're not going to spend an hour and a half to try to figure out where a $28 sell is supposed to be Mon County or Morgantown. If they say that it's Morgantown and it appears on a quick glance that it is Morgantown, then we're going to give it to Morgantown.
Is that a yearly reporting or quarterly reporting?
It is monthly. Monthly reporting, quarterly distribution.
Okay, so that you're getting those reports monthly from
Yeah,
them?
we receive those reports monthly. One thing that we have done within the unit is we're playing with some new sort of hot mapping features that'll take those distributional reports, and we're able to essentially spray every single one of the addresses out on a map and see if the dollar figure that's going to each jurisdiction makes sense with essentially the spray. So we're able to do at least that, and so the units do a little bit of that. But we're very new to that, and so not particularly great at it yet.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
issue. We will be able to help you out on that issue.
Is the reporting manual or is it electronic?
It is, if they have more than $25,000 in any tax owed in any particular year, they are supposed to file electronically. They all do not necessarily do that. A lot of them do file electronically, though, and a lot of the distributors will provide us the backup documentation in an Excel format that we can download. So that we're able to do that at least electronically, even if they provide us a paper return.
Okay.
So the long and the short of this is that taxpayers don't select their jurisdiction anymore. We started selecting their jurisdiction about 18 months ago. And so that's actually helped us going forward. So the other thing that we do is our distributions unit goes into a lot of data analysis and trend analysis on distributions now. And so basically they will look at a particular period, so let's just say November, because that's about to be due. They'll look at the November period of 2018, and they will compare it to the previous few months, the previous year, November, and anybody that is outside of what they normally would have been distributed, we go, okay, well, that's something we need to take a closer look at to see if we have some incorrect reporting going on. And so that's another thing that we started doing is essentially trend analysis. So if somebody drops by 20%, then we're going to go take a look at them and make sure that all of their taxpayers reported accurately, because they may have moved all the money over to another location or something like that. I think a lot of times what we're finding is, well, that's because they shut down a location or something like that. But other times we're finding that, yes, they've reported improperly on their returns still. And so we have to go back in and fix it.
That's what the spreadsheet we provided you is what we've done from 2012 to 2002 current.
We'll ask some questions.
Is
Yeah.
we obviously noticed something going on. In Mon County, I'd have to say is probably the highest liquor sales in the state.
Right.
And when we start, if you don't see a trend that's going up, it probably ought to tell you that something's wrong, or at least levelize it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to answer those questions when we get to
Okay.
the
Okay.
closed session. So where are we going? Passage of Senate Bill 275.
Right.
We're significantly impacting the jurisdictional reporting boundaries. The tax department's approach is we reviewed every single taxpayer. And we reset every single taxpayer's jurisdiction. So that was one thing that we did in our system, was that we set their jurisdictions in our system.
And that
So
will go in effect January 1st?
That will go into effect for the periods beginning January 1st.
Yes,
So the
beginnings.
first filing will be February 20th.
Right, right.
But the heavy lifting of recertifying
It's
them is
been
done?
It's effectively done. We reset them. As soon as we get a return on file, it'll officially in our system be reset to the new jurisdictions.
And part of the reason we asked that question is because I noticed that when you go into the application for a license, still had the 1 mile stuff in there.
Yeah.
That's available online on the website.
That's the document I gave you.
This one right here.
Yes, that's number 12. Are the applicant's premises located?
Oh, this is the business registration application.
Well-
So.
I'm good to hear that heavy lifting's been done, because that's
Yeah,
our concern.
You could
So
see
we're
where
laughing because the
Yes.
business registration application is currently undergoing a significant
Of course.
change. So it will be completely redone and hopefully will roll out on July 1. Unfortunately, this has been the application we have used for like the last 12 years. And to get a new application into our system takes a lot of IT work.
So just to clarify, so even if they initially put that down,
Mhm.
you will have a system in place that. To verify.
Yes,
Now,
absolutely.
if I can just stop you for 1 second about the mapping. We have Mr. Mike Paul here, who is our GIS coordinator, who has the mapping of Mon County.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to respond of what you can do, but we have an idea to work with you to help you. Mike, if you want to.
Absolutely, yeah. I just want to, I'm Mike Paul, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm the GIS coordinator for Monongalia County, and Monongalia County is actually taking, the helm actually with mapping in the state of West Virginia, my county. So we implemented GIS, Geographic Information Systems, in the county. I want to say, Tom, right around you.
3 or 4 years.
About 3 or 4 years ago.
4 years ago,
Yeah.
we accepted it.
So right now, we have an online parcel viewer that anybody can get to, and it shows our addressing data, our parcel data, different aerial imagery from certain years, from 2015 to 2018. We have every address point that's been updated for Mon County, and within that addressing point, for example, on the website, you can click directly on that information, and it will take you to the parcel owner. So just listening to what you're saying, you're going through multiple different mapping attributes to try to figure out the information you guys need.
We don't have.
What we could provide you here in Mon County is, if you provided us a list of addresses, we could go directly, or however you want to go about doing it. We could go directly into our GIS system downstairs and pull that information directly for you and find out who the taxpayers are.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're more than willing to work with you on
Yeah.
that. So that's what we want. That's why we're glad you're up here.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to say, while you have maybe an outdated system, we have the most updated
Right.
for Mon County that can help you verify everything.
Right.
And
Instead
we're more
of-
than willing to share.
Yeah,
work
instead
with
of
you.
going through those different mapping
Yes.
attributes that you're doing, like Google Earth and Mecca
We
911,
can-
the state tax
We'll
department.
cut
we
the
have
red
one.
tape for you.
We can just do it all in one.
Yeah, so, and I can't make any promises on where we're going to go
Right.
or how we can do it. One problem that we do have is that we have to administer the tax consistently across the state. And so as a result, if we can't do it in all 55 counties, then we can't do it.
Except, but let's
Except
stop
that we
right
can work with,
Because if we can prove to you, and we have the data,
Mhm.
we would like to work with you so that, I don't, be honest, I don't really care about the other 54 counties right
I know
now.
that you
But
don't.
we want to make sure that if we're able to work with you using this data, can we do that? Because it will help simplify and verify exactly what you want, which is
Right.
where they are located.
so very similar to
Yeah.
what he's saying. We've been working internally on an application. Primarily, it's local sales tax based, but we were also considering if we can get it to work much. I mean, we have a population of 40, I can't think how many jurisdictions that are local sales tax right now, so it was a smaller population that we could work from. We were truly, before Senate Bill 275, only concerned about jurisdictional boundary of the
Right.
city. And so we were working on a GIS application for those. We were able to get from most of those cities at least the beginnings of working with them to get a GIS application that we could do to identify the rate and what you ought to be charging and who it ought to be charged for. We'd love to move that direction, and we'll absolutely get with you and see what we can
Great.
work about
Absolutely.
doing.
I mean, that's things you were talking about, the jurisdictional boundaries and the municipal boundaries, not being able to properly tell exactly maybe where they're going. You're saying you're like 0.99 miles and you're like 0.1 off. Like, we actually have all those municipal boundaries and parcel boundaries for the county that we can use that GIS application to make a measurement and give you a better reading. So however, you guys, we can get together at a later date.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. We'll
Okay,
do
well,
that.
good. Well, that helps one of the things that we would like to do and work with you on. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're going to do the reset of the jurisdictions. We're the ones selecting the jurisdictions now. We've determined projected revenues for most jurisdictions. We don't know how accurate they're going to be. One, we just simply can't control how much people really buy. We do expect to see it normally going up because we like to see things going up with people buying stuff. But we can't guarantee that they're going to go up, and we can't guarantee that consumer behavior doesn't shift the consumer to say, I don't really want to go shop that place anymore. I want to go shop this place over here. So now we're back to small taxpayers impacting jurisdictional boundaries, where if you open up a new shopping center
Right.
in one county versus another county, it impacts county revenue. But for the state,
Exactly.
it doesn't impact us because it's all still within the same state.
Yeah, an example would be Peaches down in Uniontown,
Yeah.
where people might drive to buy
Yes,
at a lower
exactly.
rate, and there's no tax.
Yeah,
Right.
so we actually have, this is what the split essentially was for wine liquor tax in these, and we've got the dollar figures to kind of go over that if we need them. And we'll give those
Oh,
to
okay.
you all later.
That's fine.
So essentially, you saw that Morgantown had about 78% over that 6-year period. They got about 78% of the wine liquor
Mhm.
tax. Mon County was getting about 9%, and then various other places were getting incremental amounts. Our projection for 2019, Morgantown's going to go down to about 65%. Mon County's going to go up to about 16%. And that's, that's our generalized
Okay.
projection, and it can be a large.
Because of that 1 mile, yes.
Yeah, because of the 1 mile.
We can think of 2
adjustment.
stores that are good.
And
Yeah,
so,
okay.
like I said, we had over 200 taxing jurisdictions, so we had to do this sort of analysis for all
For each one.
200 plus
Okay.
taxing jurisdictions, and we've done that and put that together. And I believe that we're contacting those, particularly smaller cities. We're particularly concerned about smaller cities that are going to see a significant revenue impact. I believe that is, yeah,
Okay.
that's the last of the non-protected information.
Okay. Do we want, before we go into executive session, do you want to talk about, again, we may not be getting to, I guess you have to show us the details to explain this,
Well,
or
that's the
can we have a general
generalities.
conversation about this particular?
We'll have to get into the details.
Yes, but if we have some documentation we'd like to show you that shows some concern, and then I'll let Sean, because Sean's the specialist in this area, but you could see there's a couple things that threw red flags to us that caused all this to,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, you were talking about the look-back period, 3 years. We started talking about this in 2016.
right?
Does that mean we're outside the look-back period? This is something generally, there was an issue here going forward, and we can explain this, but is that statute that you can't go back and address it?
Yeah, again, it will have to.
Okay.
And I'll explain the reason why
That's
answering
fine,
any
okay.
of these questions actually requires confidentiality.
Okay.
Just tell us that, and then we will ask
Yeah.
those in private. That's
And
no
it-
problem.
And the other thing I just wanted to make sure is this isn't a county versus municipality thing. And that's one thing I want to make sure is on the record. There was concern that the county was going after these dollars, and our concern was the county, Big C, was losing these dollars, and that's why we raised the issue. And I think locally, we didn't get a lot of assistance because it was thought of as, well, this is, one entity fighting against the other for this, for specific dollars, and that's not the case. It was, we were seeing the whole county was losing dollars, and it didn't matter to us where they went to.
Absolutely.
It just, we wanted to address that. I wanted to make sure that we
Right,
made that
good.
perfectly clear. So if there's anything.
Well, just a couple things, if you just generally, again, look at the map. I'd like to go over 2 things. One is, for example, again, you don't have to be specific, but if you look at, and the big one was, of course, the October to December 2013, January to March 2014, where there were $0. Now, I understand we're going to talk about that. You said there was an adjustment. But you also look at the second column, the first column, Blacksville, which averaged no more than $100 or $150 for every quarter, suddenly got $4,500. Either everyone in Blacksville started drinking enormously. I mean, you could see that these numbers, I mean, right away, we're starting to get concerned. And then the third and the biggest concern that we have is what Sean is trying to say is if you look at the second page and you go down under, you see the box of comparison of like periods and then estimated liquor sales. We went from average 20 million, 21 million, 22 million. That year that we're very concerned about, we dropped to 12 million, which is not realistic. We went from an average of around 1.12 million in revenue as a county to 633,000. There's a loss of $600,000. I don't care how your system works. There's no way you could have lost $600,000 in a year. And that is and that's why, again, I don't want to be confrontational. I'm not. I really appreciate, because you've answered already a lot of my questions, for the future, and that's what we wanted.
Right, keeping in mind, we're only looking toward
Yeah.
what happens on January the 1st.
First. So we're thrilled.
We are not interested here in trying to catch you in
Yeah.
something that would say, look, you owe
You may
us
not-
this
you
or
weren't even
that.
there.
We don't care, quite frankly.
Yeah.
This commission does not care about that. This commission cares about what's going to go forward on January 1st from that point on.
And that's why
Absolutely.
but as you can see, there is a legitimate concern that we need to ask those
Yeah,
questions.
and that's why we're here, because before,
Yeah.
when we mailed letters, they were either rebuffed
2 years.
or, we've been at this a year and a half, Tom.
Well, January, I mean.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And,
But,
and
yeah,
I know that because I reviewed the letters, I know that they appear to be terse.
No, they weren't.
That's a kind word.
That's a nice word.
Primarily,
I was an English major first, I agree. Thank
Yes,
you.
we agree. Okay.
primarily, the tone of the letters is primarily driven by the fact that we believed that we simply could not share the information. And what we were trying to do and contained within it is we were trying to explain as best we could what happened without telling you what happened, because we believed that it was illegal to tell you what happened.
And we were trying to say that the drop in total sales was so enormous that either the students all went to the library and studied, or that they actually woke up. And that's what we were trying to
Right.
clarify.
I got that. And when we go
Okay.
to executive
We're all in
session,
this-
you'll
we're all in
hear it,
agreement,
and
okay.
you'll
Yeah.
appreciate the answer.
Oh, I hope so. Well, probably not.
I don't know.
It's okay.
Yeah. Is there anything? I do want to open up. House of Delegate Joe Stott was instrumental in getting this bill passed. I don't know if there's anything you want to ask that we need to take in executive session, or you understand, I mean, because you're down in Charleston more than we are, so is there anything you want to?
No, they've answered a lot of the concerns that you guys expressed to me, and
Yeah.
I will tell you, the eye opener, when you sit down and look at this, I know Blacksville well, I don't imagine how that went up that much. but-
You must have had a big-
You must
You must have had a big
How many
election
people
party.
are in Blacksville? 100? I mean,
100 be all.
yeah. So it's just something that really surprised us, but, okay. If not, do I have a motion to go into, okay.
Include Joe in?
What?
Do you want to include Joe?
I feel comfortable, yes, I don't mind.
If it's okay
Yeah.
with you guys, we'd like to include Delegate Statler,
Or
only
not.
because,
Yeah,
I don't believe that we can.
okay.
Okay.
How about, okay, we would like to have our administrator, Renetta McClure.
Renetta, I believe that we
There's no
can, because you
problem.
can designate her as
Yes.
your county administrator.
Yes.
And we can do that under the law, but under the
We're
law,
willing
we
to do
can't
what.
share with anybody
We
else.
understand, okay, we're willing to do it. So
move
go
to
into
go
exec.
to executive session, and we're going to be using the slides, so we're going to stay here.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to stay here, and we're gonna have to ask to turn off the TV. No, so, yeah. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, properly second, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we're just back in regular session. Again, we really appreciate the information. I think it was very informative and enlightening and I think understandable. We really do appreciate you being now, we're both on the same wavelength, and I don't know if anyone else wants to.
No, I want to thank you for coming up
Yes.
here. I know this is probably, you probably might have dreaded this trip, but we really only wanted to work with you to
And-
find out how we can move forward. And that's all we're concerned about, is making sure we're accountable to our citizens
Right.
as far as where their tax dollars are going. And I appreciate I'm very confident
Yeah.
with everything you've showed us that the state's in good hands moving forward to this regard.
It's
So-
nice to see that everything added up. That, your explanation was, of such a nature that
Clarify.
precise, concise, very understandable, very much appreciated.
And more
Thank you.
importantly, you're prepared for January 1st, which is what we want.
And we're only interested in
hope.
working with you, so if there's anything else that we
Yeah.
can work with you in this regard, again, we offered our GIS services.
Yeah.
I've got
But
his
again,
contact
anywhere we can
information,
help,
so-
Yeah.
we're interested in working together and trying to,
Yeah.
make all of our jobs easier. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
So-
Thank you, really appreciate it. Do we want to open that door just so they know
We wanna
we're
go
open?
Do you-
Well, we don't have to adjourn because
It's not adjourned.
So we can walk around.
Renee?